Tonight we're going to dig into the first part of Chapter 2. I say first part because I anticipate the review of Chapter 2 to be split into two videos, just to make sure that we've got time to enjoy the conversation and it's so rich. It's such a rich chapter, and it's not something I want to rush through. So, but Chapter 2 is about Bluebeard, and Bluebeard is representative of the predatory part of our inner psyche. Super interesting. And in her usual fashion, the author is just so poetic with all of her writings, and I'm going to share little snippets from this chapter with you all, like I always do. It's, if you haven't seen my other videos, I would recommend going back if you have interest in this book, because what I'm doing is, just really quick for those who are coming on board now, that I'm reviewing this book through the lens of narcissism, okay? If you have been on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse, if you've been in a narcissistic environment, you're just coming around to understanding about narcissism, this book is very relevant. And it's something I came across about 15-20 years ago, and I'm rereading it now through this lens. So yes, Chapter 2 is called Stalking the Intruder, the Beginning Initiation. And I'm going to read to you a little bit of the opening paragraphs here, just to give you an example of her writing once again, and also to kind of, it's just a great opener for this topic. It's such a deep and rich topic here in Chapter 2. Okay, so let's dig in together. And I hope you're not like me. I hope you're not drinking hot latte late at night, espresso. Yeah, I'm probably going to be up all night now, but I just had a craving for it, and I've got this awesome Keurig that I just, it actually froths the milk for you. So it's just so delicious. It's like this, I think they drink strong coffees for dessert in Italy, right? So that'll be my excuse. I mean, I'm not Italian, but but it's, I've always been a night owl anyway. So I thought, I was craving my coffee, and I thought, yeah, I'm just going to sit up with you guys, and let's go ahead and dig into Chapter 2. And just real quick, I've missed you all, but I haven't been able to stay up on my videos as much as I normally do, and as much as I like to, because of sickness in the family. So we're dealing with that. I'm over my part, thank goodness. It was some of the sickest I've ever been in my life. And then now there's others who are sick in my family. So we're going to get through it, right? If you pray as part of your beliefs, if you could remember us in your prayers, I would greatly appreciate that. So, all right, 'tis the season, right? Unfortunately. So Chapter 2, Stalking the Intruder. Let's focus on the good things: learning, healing, educating ourselves, and creating a beautiful new life after coming into the awareness of narcissism, because it can slap the daylights out of you. It can be a total shock. And then once you get over it, you just have a total yearning to learn more, so that you're not ever going to fall victim again. You're never going to be taken advantage of again like that. Used, abused, and also a lot of people have a strong yearning to educate others, like myself. So we can all do our part, to help wake up other people. And that's something that's really interesting about this chapter, because it talks about waking up from being naive. And so I really hope you guys enjoy this chapter. I'm really looking forward to digging into this with you all. So, all right, Chapter 2, Stalking the Intruder, the Beginning Initiation. So I'm going to go ahead and read to you the opening paragraphs. It says, Bluebeard. In a single human being, there are many other beings, all with their own values, motives, and devices. Some psychological technologies suggest we arrest these beings, count them, name them, force them into harness till they shuffle along like vanquished slaves. But to do this would halt the dance of wildish lights in a woman's eyes. It would halt her heat lightning and arrest all throwing of sparks. Rather than corrupt her natural beauty, our work is to build for all these beings a wildish countryside wherein the artists among them can make, the lovers love, and the healers heal. But what shall we do with those inner beings who are quite mad, and those who carry out destruction without thought? Even these must be given a place, though one in which they can be contained. One entity in particular, the most deceitful and most powerful fugitive in the psyche, requires our immediate consciousness and containment, and that one is the natural predator. So, my understanding thus far is that this natural predator is sort of like, you can think of it like your inner critic. You know, like if you write music, if you are an artist and you paint pictures, if you, do any kind of creative work whatsoever, this inner critic is going to be that part of you that's just nagging at you, like saying it's not good enough. You know, like don't publish that. People are going to laugh at you. Or, you really need to try harder. And a lot of times, it's sad to think about all of the wonderful things that humans can conceive of and have the talent to create, but never actually sees the light of day because of this natural predator, this inner critic. So I think that's essentially what this is talking about, but it's so much more. It's so much more, and it's really rich, and that's why I want to take my time with this chapter. And so just to kind of give you an example of the expansion of this, I'm going to just take a couple more snippets out just to get us all thinking in alignment here. So she says here on page 50, still chapter 2, she says, many women have literally lived the Bluebeard tale. They marry while they are yet naive about predators, and they choose someone who is destructive to their lives. They are determined to cure that person with love. They are in some way playing house. One could say they have spent much time saying, his beard really isn't that blue. So, yeah, does that not resonate? How many times have we ignored red flags? How many times have we made excuses for someone who is truly toxic in our life? You know what I'm saying? It's like we want so bad to believe that, someone's really not that bad. His beard isn't really so blue. His beard really isn't so blue. I mean, it's like, yeah, exactly. And, it's really understandable that we do this, though. And I feel like we need to cut ourselves some slack here and give ourselves some grace, because if you are a healthy person, a non-narcissistic person, and I understand that these traits exist on a spectrum and that nobody is completely clear of all traits. I understand that, even the most healthy person is going to have some narcissistic traits. I get that, right? It is a spectrum. But if you take a person who is considered healthy, who is not intentionally deceitful, who is not manipulating people for their own advantage and living a very selfish life, a healthy person is able to see their own faults consciously. They're willing to see their own faults and acknowledge their own faults consciously. They're capable of apologizing when need be. And so what happens is a person like this is likely to have a healthy amount of empathy. And when you meet someone who, first of all, to even conceive that someone not only isn't wired like you, but is wired in a fashion that they are intentionally, I want to say evil, but they are intentionally manipulative and deceitful and selfish to the point of being destructive and toxic to other people in their life. It's kind of like when you're a healthy person, it's like you don't want to see that. You don't want to even acknowledge that that exists in the world, even though you see all these stories on the news. You know what I'm saying? You see them, you hear about it, you know it's true. You know that there are bad people in this world. There are murderers. And but to be sitting across from someone, to be living with someone, to have someone close in your family, or even in your workplace, a friend, whatever it is, you know, the day that you wake up and you start going, it's a big pill to swallow to consider that this person could be wired in that same fashion as some of these people that you see on the news or on Dateline. And so we just don't want to accept that. It's too traumatic. And I think that this kind of happens automatically and unconsciously. And I think that because of that, that's really the driving factor of why we make excuses. And so, like in the beginning of the chapter when I was reading you, she was talking about, you know, within one human being, there are these many other beings. I think there's a type of psychology where they call it like the inner family. I forget what it's called, the technical term, but it's basically breaking down all the parts of the psyche just for comprehension purposes, like they are individual parts of a family. And so, and like that way you can understand how they work together and the relationship between the different parts and how they all work together to create a whole and complete human psyche. So I think that's kind of, you know, without using those technical terms, what she's talking about here. When she says in a single human being, there are many other beings, all with their own values, motives, and devices. And she talks about, you know, this natural predator that's inside of our psyche. And she's talking about, you know, what do we do with it? Do we, you know, just bury this part and don't even, you know, acknowledge its existence? Or do we consciously bring it into our awareness and acknowledge it so that we can harness, you know, any potential benefits it may have, or to prevent ourselves from getting hung up from the negative aspects of it? You know, it's kind of like, do we bring it into the light of our consciousness, or do we tuck it away? And so I know that, you know, she's talking here in this introductory section about this part of our psyche, but then, like I said, when you flip over here to page 50, she's talking about, you know, many women have literally lived the Bluebeard tale, and Bluebeard is, and we'll get to that, the story. Bluebeard is the representative character of this natural predator. So now she's talking about, if, you know, people have lived this, she's talking about an external predator, you know, outside of the psyche. Because there are predators, and a lot of narcissists are predators. One may even make the argument that that's what they are. They are seeking supply, right? If you've done any kind of research prior to this video on narcissism, that's what it's all about, is someone to feed their ego, to extract resources from. Even if it's just attention and your time, and but it can go further into your money and your it's almost like they just suck the life force out of you, and they want to become you. And it's just, there's plenty of other channels that go deep into this topic explaining narcissism. And once again, I'm certainly not a licensed professional. I'm just someone who's you know, lived a lot of experiences in life and wanting to share that with you all. So But I want to dig into this chapter in regards to, I want to do it justice, and I want to acknowledge the full spectrum of the predatory nature as much as we can in relation to this story. Now, let me just read you this other little paragraph. It's another opening part here. This is on the next page, okay? On page 51, if you have the book. And so the title, she has like little mini titles to different sections, even within a chapter. So the title of this section is called The Key to Knowing the Importance of Snuffling. Snuffling, okay? And then there's a paragraph here that says, Bluebeard continues his destructive plan, and we'll get into this story. I'm kind of going backwards on this, but you'll see why. It just kind of, I want us to be prepared and ready to fully absorb, the depth of the meaning as we get it further into it, okay? So Bluebeard continues his destructive plan by instructing his wife to compromise herself psychically. Compromise herself, which is totally what narcissists get their victims to do. Self-sabotage. Do whatever you like, he says. He prompts the woman to feel a false sense of freedom. He implies she is free to nourish herself and to revel in bucolic landscapes, at least within the confines of his territory. I had to look that up, bucolic. I think I'm saying it right, but it's country, like a countryside. Okay, I'll read that again. He prompts the woman to feel a false sense of freedom. He implies she is free to nourish herself and to revel in bucolic landscapes, at least within the confines of his territory. Within the confines of his territory. But in reality, she is not free. For she is constrained from registering the sinister knowledge about the predator, even though deep in the psyche she already truly comprehends the issue. Wow. Yes. If you have been through narcissistic abuse, this is going to register like crazy for you. I know, because it did for me. Gotta love that low battery. I'm going to try to get through a little bit more here. Yes. This should really, really resonate with you if you have been through narcissistic abuse. And that's just exactly what it is. This paragraph here that I just read to you is, for me, very representative of what it's like to be gaslit. Because it's so confusing, especially with covert narcissists. It's kind of like you can't really put your finger on what's wrong. You blame yourself for a lot of things. You can be stuck for years, not really understanding what's going on, trying to put two and two together, and all the while you're just declining. Your health, your memory, your self-esteem. You're just on this, Whereas before you met this person, you were strong. You were somewhat accomplished in life. You had it together. Everything was good. And it's like like I said, it's sad. It's awful. And so it's so subtle, and it's so slick and cunning the way that they do this. Okay. And so it says he implies she is free to nourish herself. So it's kind of like when you can't put your finger on what's wrong and what's going on. When you see this in yourself, that you can look back on where you used to be. You used to be healthier. You used to be happier. You used to be able to be more productive in life and accomplish more on a regular basis and all these things. When you can look back and see the way you used to be, and then you look at where you are now, it's easy to blame yourself, because these people make you feel like any kind of recognition that or awareness you may come into of your current state and situation, they make you feel like it's your own fault. You know, they're certainly not to blame. And so, and when you try to find proof that it's not your fault, you can't find the proof that it's not your fault, even though you can't really find the proof that it's your fault either. So I like how this paragraph kind of captures that, you know, because really she was, I think she used the word constrained. She was within the confines of his territory, and it says, in reality, she is not free. And then here's the kicker. She says, she's constrained from registering the sinister knowledge about the predator. Okay? So in other words, that's the piece that we are missing when we are entangled with a narcissist. That's the piece from acknowledging this person may have bad intentions with us. We're just not willing to go there in our mind because it's terrifying. And so it says, even though deep in the psyche, she already truly comprehends the issue. And it's kind of like we know. On some level, we know, just like I was saying, you know that, you know, we've all seen these horrible news stories. We know the horrible things that human beings are capable of, some human beings are capable of. And yet, to even go there in our mind about this person that's so confusing in our life, we just can't bring ourselves to do it. And so I think it's, you know, what is it? Why? Is it fear? Is it just that it's that terrifying that we just can't go there? It's almost like if we were willing to open the door and take a look at how evil this really is and what this really means about this person, what would happen to us? Would the sheer terror of it just blow us away? Like, it's, I think that it's, because this is all unconscious. I think that it is a natural, automatic process that is something that happens in our mind that is meant to protect us. It's kind of like, and I don't know the technical term, but like children or even adults who experience something terrifying. I just stepped on something that felt really spiky and scary, and I looked and there was this dark blob in the floor, and I thought, oh my God, what is this? Yeah, it's a dinosaur. It's a toy dinosaur. You see all the spikes, so I was stepping on that, so that's a relief. It's not a gigantic bug. That would have been terrifying. You would have seen me scream and run. But yeah, we're good. But whew, that was a loop interrupter there. But yes. But what I was getting at is really it's no laughing matter, because that protective part that kicks in, it's kind of like when somebody, young, old, it doesn't matter, goes through a horrific experience, they can literally like just jump out of their conscious awareness and, you know, automatically, unconsciously, and not even really be present to truly experience and remember the event, so that when the event is over, they don't remember it. And that's just an example of how powerful our mind is. Our mind is so powerful, and it'll do things like that. It'll trick us and do these wild, has all these wild mechanisms as a means to protect us. So it's you know, it's an incredible thing, and that's how I view this. That's how I view, you know, when people talk about red flags of narcissism. Yeah, we see them, and you know, yeah, maybe if we had been in a better place from the get-go, when we met this person, maybe we wouldn't have continued to get deeper into a relationship with them. Maybe that's true. Maybe there's self-work and self-evaluation that needs to be done there. Like, why did you really get involved when you saw red flags from the get-go? I get that. But once you are involved, and maybe you didn't see any red flags until you were deeply involved, but at some point, I think that there's a mechanism in our mind that is akin to what I just described, where our conscious awareness won't allow us to acknowledge the horror of the reality of the situation, because it is so shocking. Here we go, just to illustrate what I was talking about. And I'm just picking out bits and pieces so that we can already be in a good place in our mind when we dig in deeper, okay? So on page 52, she mentions the psychic barrier. Exactly. That's exactly what I was talking about. So there's a door in the tail. So when we get into the tail, be thinking about that door, you know. It says the door in the tail is portrayed as a psychic barrier, a kind of guard that is placed in front of the secret. So I hope that, you know, in some way, so far, what we've talked about has brought you a little bit of peace and an ability, with regard to an ability to give yourself grace and not be so hard on yourself for ignoring those red flags. Because, and even like peace with the fact that many of you may have taken many years to be strong enough and to be in a particular place to be able and ready to break free from a narcissistic person. And so instead of self-blame, to be able to understand, you know, all the reasons why it may have taken so long, that's important to me for closure, because you're certainly not going to get closure from these people. You know, it has to happen through your healing process. So, but this whole chapter discusses the naive nature, the predatory part of our psyche, the predatory nature in people, and so I'm really looking forward to digging into this with you guys deeper, and I hope that this kind of sets the stage for you. And check this out, okay? So this is just cool. Side note, I gotta share this with you. It's wild. First of all, this is like my third or fourth copy of this book, because what happens is I give them away. Well, one time I didn't give it away. One time I loaned it out and I never got it back, which didn't really surprise me. It's an incredible book. But this particular copy was one that I found at my grandmother's house. I didn't even know that she had a copy of this. And I was very close to my grandmother. She passed away in 2017. And it was kind of a surprise, because this book's really unique. You know, almost every single person I've ever mentioned it to, they've never heard of it. Even some psychologists that I know, they've never heard of it. And the lady that wrote it, you know, is a psychotherapist. She's a brilliant lady, in my opinion. So, but I didn't know that my grandmother had this book. And so I got her copy when she passed away, and it was just the coolest thing ever. And the other cool thing is there's a name in the front, which is not, I'm pretty confident this is not her handwriting. I know it pretty well, and yet the name is her maiden name, which she never went by. And so how ironic is that it would have potentially been somebody else's book before my grandmother's who had the same name as my grandmother's maiden name, you know? Kind of cool. Got a little Noah's Ark sticker there with that name. And then look at this. There was a, this is creepy. I'm going to share it with you all. There was a bookmark in there of this. See it? Yeah. It's a torn photograph. Just an old torn photograph of this woman's sleeve, arm, chest. Yeah, it was cut right here and torn off up there. So odd, to say the least. And I don't know if this is meaningful in some way to my grandmother or whoever had the book before her, but the fact that this is a book about a woman's psyche and the struggles that women go through, um, it kind of, with the head gone, it just sort of, makes you wonder, like, is this symbolic of, feeling like you don't have a voice, or feeling like you no longer exist, which is kind of like what happens when you're taken over by a narcissist in a relationship. So, I don't know. Maybe it's not related, but maybe it is. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought I'd share that with you all. Yeah. So thank you all for joining me tonight, for this introductory video on Chapter 2, and we'll dig in some more. And just want to remind you all that if you don't want to purchase and read the book, there are other YouTube channels where there's other people reading the book, and I'm not sure around the copyright, so if you know how that's allowed or whatever, but there's a lot out there on this particular book. So if you enjoy that, if you enjoy listening to a book, I just recommend looking into the YouTube search bar, Women Who Run with the Wolves, and you might even type in Chapter 2, Bluebeard, and you can enjoy that, because there's some other great channels who have done a wonderful job on sharing this book as well. And so again, my version is just through the narcissistic lens, but it's my hope through my channel that and let me just back up and explain. So my channel has the intention of coming at narcissism from a lens of the latter stages of healing and looking forward to the future after coming into this awareness, after experiencing narcissistic abuse, being wiser, reconstructing your life, and just enjoying life with peace and with more discernment and wisdom going forward, more so than just breaking down the topic of narcissism or digging into the early stages of healing and just educating and all that. That's really not my cup of tea. There's plenty of other channels out there on that, but it's my wish that all of us who have spent, many years entangled in toxicity of any kind, family, friends, work environment, marital situation, whatever, it's my wish that we are able to move on with peace, discernment, be happy, and to know that if we do choose to engage in a partnership again in the future, that we're deserving of reciprocation. We're deserving of never being lied to. We're deserving of all the good things, man. All the good things. And while nobody's perfect, we're not perfect. It's one of my favorite sayings is ain't nobody perfect, and it's true, ain't nobody perfect, and but that's what makes you beautiful, is the fact that you can embrace your imperfections while keeping a growth mindset. You never just want to be stuck and be like, well, that's who I am, that's how I am, I'm just take it or leave it. It's kind of like, I totally respect those of us who can who want to be better and do better, because you never stop learning. But at the same time, keeping a level of humility and understanding that, no matter how hard we try to grow in this world and in this lifetime, we're never going to reach perfection. But it's my wish that, if it's something that you want, that you can find someone that you do feel equally yoked with, someone who understands what you've been through, someone who understands what it means to be perfectly imperfect, someone who wants to reciprocate because they love you and not because they are faking you off and lying to you so they can use you and take you for everything you got, and live a second hidden crazy life that nobody knows about, and whatever it is. And so thank you guys for walking this path with me, and I really enjoy it. I'm pretty tired, which is why I'm very long-winded. So thanks for making it to the end with me. My coffee is about gone, and apparently 3 espressos in a day just does nothing in terms of keeping me up. So I can tell I'm going to sleep great tonight anyway. So I hope you sleep well tonight too. If it's late, if it's not, good morning, whatever time of day it is that you're watching this. And yeah, thanks again. See you soon.